Hey, happy Monday morning, everybody. It is time to serve you, the small business owner, here on my favorite day of the week, Monday, and I'm going to be doing it with a garbage can lid. What in the heck is a garbage can lid with the logo Savannah Bananas got to do with anything? Well, I'm going to share that for you here in just a second, and I think it'll be really helpful to understand where what we do is each week on the Business on Purpose platform as we liberate you from your chaos, is what we're trying to do is to share real life in the trench questions that we get throughout the week or that we hear through coaching sessions, whatever it may be, and then bring them to you every single week so that you've got insight, perspective on some of the real life issues that you're dealing with on a regular basis. And so we're going to be able to do that this morning. One thing we can never provide for you, and that is the implementation. That's always on you, and it's always something that you've got to pull through. So everything that we talk about here is going to be excellent, actionable stuff. And then within that, you've got to go and you've got to implement and you've got to execute. So we've got two questions today. My second question, I'm going to focus on the garbage can lid. But my first question is we're going to focus on that touchy issue of partnerships. Should I be in a partnership? If I'm in a partnership, but I can't get anything done, what should I do in that situation? My goodness, we hear this all the time, especially when people are looking to start a business. They ask us about partnerships. And the second question we're going to ask ourselves is how do we create that customer experience where people are dying to get back into what we do? So how do they do that? How do they create that customer experience? And then the first question that we've got there, and that's what we're going to start with, is should I be in a partnership? The soft answer, the short answer, no! You know, they've heard it said before, I think it was Dave Ramsey who said it, the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. Am I saying that you shouldn't be in one? No, I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is, can partnerships be challenging? Yes, they can be incredibly challenging. Can they be rewarding? Yes, of course they can. So what we've seen experientially are a couple of things. One is that the majority of the time that a partnership exists, the majority of the time it's more harm than good. That's just what we've seen experientially. I'm not saying it's that way all the time, but if you were to ask me, hey Scott, as a coach, when you peer inside the inside of a business, is a partnership going to be more apt for danger, distraction, disruption, those sorts of things? I'm going to tell you yes every time, because we've seen it probably the majority of the time is that partnerships tend to be. Now, there are a couple of that work, and they work really, really well, and we've worked with some of those, and there are some tenets there. And so I wanted to walk through what works really well in the setup of a partnership. So the first question you've got to ask yourself is, do we have a unified vision? Do we have a collective, detailed snapshot of what the future of this business is going to look like? And in order to be able to move forward together, not separately, not distracting, going in two separate directions or 15 separate directions, you've got to have one unified vision that you're running toward. You know, Habakkuk says it, we say it all the time around here. You write the vision down so that those who read it may run. And so if you've got a partnership where there's a collective, unified vision where two people are going the same direction, or three people, we work with a lot of architecture firms, and so sometimes you'll get 3, 4, 5, 6 principles. We talked with one firm that had 11 architectural principles inside the firm, and I thought, me and my partner Enoch Sears just thought, no, that doesn't sound like any fun at all. So you've got to ask yourself, do you have a unified vision of where you want to go? Again, that's a detailed snapshot of the future. The second thing is you got to ask yourself, do we have a unified set of core values? Now, before you shut this thing off, remember what core values are, and then I'll get to the garbage can lid here in just a second. So what core values are is they are your curbs along the side of the road. So as you're heading down the road to your detailed snapshot of the future, your vision, right? You don't want to drive your car off the track of that road. Instead, you want to stay in bounds. Well, your core values are the curbs along that road to help you make those unified decisions. I'm not talking about core values like honesty and integrity and all of those sorts of things. I'm talking about things that are unique to you that may not be unique to me. And a great example of that is we've got one client, his core value is salty. He's salty. Well, that doesn't fit me very well, but it fits him really well. And so when he makes decisions, he happens to work in salt water. And when he makes a decision, he runs it through those core values. If you're operating in a partnership and you do not have a defined set of what we call unique core values, that is a massive danger zone, because you're making decisions on a whim. You're just making them based on what feels right in the moment, rather than a defined set of 3 or 4 or 5 principles to say yes and no with great definition. So a vision, a clear set of unique core values. The third thing that you've got to have is a clear operational structure. I want to know, if I'm a coach coming on the inside of a partnership, who's the operational number one? I want to know that. There is no co-leadership. How has that worked out for college football when you got co-head coaches? Not too well. And you don't see any of them in the NFL, because more times than not, it is cause for headache and not for great efficiency and a push towards the vision. So you got to have that collective vision, a collective unified set of core values, and then I want to know who's the number one and who's the number two. Does this mean the number one's better than the number two? Of course not. In fact, in many cases, the number two, it could be more filled with capacity than the number one. But the number one might be a better skilled number one than a number two. What the heck are you talking about? Well, let's go back to the Chicago Bulls in the 1990s. The clear number one was a Michael Jordan, but the supporting cast were incredibly impactful. Scottie Pippen, right? And some of the other shooters he had around them. You could think in modern day times of LeBron James, clear number one, right? LeBron James, clear number one. But I want to know operationally who is the number two, because it's so important. Because if you're both number ones, guess what's going to happen? And it's going to happen every single time. And I don't want the number one for this little area and the number one for this little area. I want what we call the single point of accountability for the operational function of the business. If something goes awry in the business, I want to know who's accountable for that going awry. And that needs to be the clear, what we call number one. The CEO, managing director, whatever title you want to put on it, I don't care. The way we look at it is you got a number one and you got a number two, and you've got a whole team of people who are helping push that forward. Now, is the number one and the number two a part of the team? Of course they are. There has to be a single point of accountability when you're looking at that. A fourth thing you got to have in a partnership is a clear, defined operating agreement. There needs to be clarity. Now you could say, well, my partners, we're friends, and guys, I have seen more of these things go south, go downhill, because nobody stopped to put things in writing. It is for the benefit of you, it's for the benefit of your partner, and even more importantly than that, it's for the benefit of your family. We just had a client pass away in the last calendar year, and that it kind of brings you to sobriety about the reality of the things you've got to have in place. And so if something goes south, here's the truth, here's the sobering truth, you have to have an operating agreement in place to instruct people with exactly what to do when that situation occurs. Are operating agreements cumbersome? Yes. Are they long? Yes. Are they filled with lawyer speak? Yes. But if something goes south, you've got it there to protect everybody involved against just the idea of good intentions. Good intentions don't work really well in partnerships, and it's only those filled with the highest level of integrity that can get through it, and I don't say that lightly. And we're all susceptible to a lack of integrity. So let's just get it down on paper. A defined vision, a defined set of unique core values, a clear structure, who's your number one, and what's the operating agreement look like? Hey, I'm going to answer one more question. If you don't mind, if you're on here, share this post. There are so many other business owners who need to hear this stuff, who need to understand the reality about partnerships. And whether you're a business that's running $50,000 in revenue, $1 million, $5 million, $15 million, I don't care. All of this stuff is true in what you need. But go ahead and just click the share button. Share it with your friends, because there's other small business owners that need to hear it. Now, here's the second question. How do you create a customer experience? And why the heck do I hold up a garbage can lid? How do you create a customer experience that makes people want to come back? I want to tell you a story. So last night, we went to watch the Savannah Bananas in Savannah, Georgia. Now, the Savannah Bananas are led by Jesse and Emily Cole, husband and wife, who brought the team to Savannah about a year and a half ago. And I'm not going to give you the whole backstory. You can go to the Business on Purpose podcast, episode number 85, and you can listen to Jesse tell it himself. It's so much better. But I want to tell you my experience from last night. Number one, if you want to create a customer experience where people will come back, I want you to find your inner garbage can. What in the heck do I mean by that? Well, this actual lid came from the game. And if you'll notice, there's chili and cheese marks right here. Why? Because the Savannah Banana sells something they call the garage can nachos. No, garbage. I keep saying garage. The garbage can nachos. And so you can buy nachos on this. I mean, look how big this is. My head compared to this thing. This is filled with nachos that have cheese and hamburger and chicken and hot dog and all sorts of other stuff that's on here. And so we were all sharing and splitting it. And so we had a garbage can lid the whole time. Now, I told Jesse I was going to get this back to him, by the way. So Jesse, Emily, it's coming back. Don't worry. But within this, I wanted to take this, and here's the reason why. It's because the entire game, there was a guy, and he was dressed in a dark blue Bananas t-shirt and a dark blue Bananas hat. And he would walk by us. We were on the third row in general admission on the first base side. And he would walk by us, and he was smiling. And then he would walk back by us, and he was smiling. About every 15 or 20 minutes, he had a grocery cart filled with garbage, and every time he walked by, he was smiling. Every single, like he couldn't even wipe it off his face, he was smiling. When nobody was looking, he was smiling. It was like he was just happy to be hauling garbage all night. And so he would haul garbage back here. And then he would haul garbage back there. And then he'd go get some more garbage and haul it back there. And I realized, oh my goodness, the culture that Jesse and Emily have created with the Savannah Bananas team has created a culture where this guy who's hauling garbage all night in front of thousands of people, by the way, they've sold out every single game this year. It's a wooden bat collegiate league, and they sold out every single ticket this year. Savannah Bananas broke all sorts of records, and their garbage can man is smiling. And so if you want to create a customer experience where your customers want to come back, then what we've got to work on as business owners is creating that experience within our own team, even so much that the garbage can man is smiling. So what are we doing to invest in our team? It's a question I've got to ask myself. What are we doing to invest in our team? To have the people at all levels smiling and enthusiastic and so excited because of what they get to be a part of. So that's the first tip. Jesse says find your yellow tux, but I'm going to take it up a notch and say find your garbage can. Find your garbage can and figure out what that is, because when you've got that, when you are creating an atmosphere within the culture that's raising the level of your culture, and by the way, they incentivize their own people to read. Again, go listen to that at our podcast, episode 85, Business on Purpose podcast. Find your inner garbage can. And when you do that, you've created that culture internally, and then that creates enthusiasm for everybody else. I want to go because I want to see how their employees act, their staff, their team. I want to see how they respond to certain situations. And then finally, Jesse talks about all the time, do things that don't make sense. So when we were there last night, a friend of mine, Toby Minkowski, and his son, they got invited out on the field to do a father-son toss before the game. And so they literally dressed Toby's son up in a banana costume, and they dressed Toby up in a priest outfit because it's a father-son before-game toss. And we asked Jesse, why'd you do that? And he goes, we don't know. It didn't make sense, but people love it. And then before the game, what they do is they take a baby less than 6 months old with the father. They come to home plate, and they play that Lion King music. You know, I don't even know the words. And the father holds the baby up and goes around to the whole stadium. And the players, every player for the Savannah Bananas is on their knees holding up their kind of magic hands or whatever they call those things around this baby. You don't think I want to go back with my family and watch that? That is hilarious. We were laughing all night. Jesse and Emily and the whole team have taken the slowest sport in the world and they've made it exciting. And so you might have the slowest, most boring business in the world. But does that mean you have to live that way? No. You want to find your inner garbage can. You want your garbage man to smile. You want to be so excited that people at every single level smile about what you do. And so there's an opportunity for you to be able to serve the customers that you work with by doing something spectacular. Do we have this figured out? Heck no, but we're trying. We're working. That's why we go to things like this. And Jesse Cole's showing us around and we bring a garbage can lid home. Who does that, right? Does it make sense? No, but it sure was funny and it made for a great story. So, hey, if you don't mind, again, do you mind sharing this Facebook ad? And just push the share button, share it with all sorts of people. If you're listening on the podcast, we're delighted to have you. Wherever you're at, head on over to mybusinessonpurpose.com/August webinar. If you're listening to this, August webinar, and we've got a webinar coming up. The 3 keys for business owners to be able to gain margin in their business right away. It's going to be August 24th at the time of this recording, 2017, and you can go sign up for that. mybusinessonpurpose.com/August webinar. And you can be there, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks as you go that. So remember our talk about partnerships, but also our talk about how to create a game-changing customer experience. I'm so glad you could join us on my favorite day of the week, Monday, where we liberate you from the chaos of working in your business. Have a great week, guys.